In this lesson, we're going to want to talk about interventions. And when we talk about interventions, questions that pop up to mind is, why intervene? On what should we intervene, and how should we intervene? So first off, let's really contextualize here. ADHD is, the last letter D stands for disorder, right? And what is the definition of a disorder? So let's take the Oxford definition of a disorder. It is an illness that disrupts normal physical or mental functions. So we're really concerned here about functioning. Which functioning? Attentional functioning, behavioral functioning as well. Okay, so this is an illness, or a disorder is not the same thing as a disease, right? So a disease, the definition here is a disorder of structure or function in a human, animal, or plant, especially one that produces specific symptoms or that affects a specific location and is not simply a direct result of physical injury. The idea behind a disease is that we know the cause. Whilst we have a lot of studies on etiology or causes of ADHD, we don't have a test that lets us really say yes or no, it's present. It's still a clinical diagnosis, right? So we're much more in a context of a syndrome rather than a disease, okay? So what is a syndrome? I'm sorry, this is another definition. A syndrome is defined as a group of symptoms which consistently occur together, or a condition characterized by a set of associated symptoms. So what does this imply? This implies that we are not in the domain of intervening to cure a disease. We're in the domain of intervening to help with the impact of symptoms on an individual's functioning. So can I try a last definition? I'm really sorry. Okay, let's define what a symptom is, because that's important as well. A symptom is a physical or mental feature which is regarded as indicating a condition of disease, particularly such a feature that is apparent to the patient. Okay, so this is really from the standpoint of the patient. It relates to disease-like entities, but as I previously told you, we do not have a test that signifies presence or absence of this putative ADHD disease. We're really much more in the context of a disorder, of syndromes, set of symptoms that really impact the individual's functioning. Okay, so functioning is a key word here as well, because we're going to want to evaluate the domains of functioning. We are going usually to evaluate approximately 6 main domains of functioning. The first, of course, is school or work. The second is family functioning. The third is daily functioning, how one can take care of oneself and others. Risky behaviors is certainly a domain we want to investigate. Relational and interpersonal functioning in the social realm, as well as my own favorite, relationship to oneself. Okay, so intervening on the symptoms that affect different domains of functioning for an individual is going to be the basic goal of any intervention. And these interventions are likely to combine different types of intervention. So you know probably, of course, medication is one type of intervention. Psychoeducation is another type of intervention. Third type usually has to do with psychotherapy techniques or modules. And finally, we have daily life accompaniment that can really help in the individual's life or in the individual's context, really help with some of the problems that or obstacles that may present themselves. So in the next modules, we're really going to detail all these families of intervention. So just to conclude and recapitulate together, we started off with a question. When we talk about interventions, we're talking about why intervening, on what do we want to intervene, and how do we want to intervene. And the key message here is that we want to intervene on those targets that link up the symptoms to the obstacles or the problems in daily life, right? We have a different kind of interventions, and we're going to intervene specifically and somewhat in personalized fashion to really respond to the needs of the individual. Okay, so then the question for you perhaps right now is, okay, so you've got a lot of domains, you've got a lot of interventions. How do we decide? Where do we start? This is where guidelines are useful. And as you'll see in the next lesson, we're going to talk about the international guidelines. That is, what the professionals propose as to how you want to decide which intervention and when along development with ADHD. So why don't you take a look at the next videos on guidelines.